nation.
Right. Right. So it's not necessarily the whole nation. It might be the nation where you are, maybe the tzibur.
Yeah, tzibur.
In fact, that is what it says, doesn't it? The Yachid versus the tzibur. Isn't that the lashon of the Gemara? Habi Yachid, Habi tzibur. So the Am seems to be the tzibur. In the days of Yeshaya Hanavi, so the tzibur was the Am because they're in the same place. But if it splits, the Gemara seems to be saying we'll go with the tzibur.
But so after that, like the days of Yirmiyahu, right at the end, no matter what they could do, they could have done two all day long, and it wouldn't matter. According to this.
Well, they're the Rabbim, still the tzibur, still the Am. No, they could have done tshuva. But what God was telling Yeshayahu Hanavi here, which is before Yirmiyahu, make it so that they won't listen to you, because we all know that if they do tshuva, it'll be good. But it's like Hashem. What's the word? He had it in for Klai. So now he was. If you learn it in Sefer Yeshaya, like he was goading Yeshaya to say, "But God, they're your people. How could you do this?" Right? It's kind of like it's the Yeshayahu Hanavi edition of what we're going to read in this week's parsha, right? Hanicha, right? Hanicha li, just leave me alone. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's the Midrash where they describe that Moshe is lahavdol to say such a thing, but Kiviyachal, he's grabbing God by the lapels. Don't destroy them. Yeah. So the same thing happens at the time of Yeshaya. By the time you get to Yirmiyahu, it's still not too late. Maybe, but
it's the same idea why Yonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. He said,
right, he's destroying the people. Right. Yeah. Because that's how it always is, my friends. That's how it always is.
They're not even Jews.
Okay. A friend of mine had to do a wedding there were non-Jewish people, a lot of non-Jewish people at the wedding. It was Jewish people getting married. It just happened. A guy sends me a text. There's a lot of non-Jews there. He says, after he does the chuppah, it's a totally Orthodox chuppah. After he does the chuppah, these non-Jewish people are coming over and they're falling all over them. Says, Rabbi, it was so spiritual, it was so meaningful, it was so deep. Everything. He said, I didn't even give a speech under the chuppah. I just said Mazel Tov to them. But they were bowled over, amazing. He says, not one Jew came over to me to tell me it was any good. I said, okay.
If they did, they probably would have told you it was too long.
Too long. He spoke too long. This is problem. Kacha. And that was what Yonah understood. If I'm going to go to Nineveh, I'll say a 5-word speech till I'll do tshuva. And it's exactly what happened. He went 5 words. Od arba'im yom v'ninveh nepachet. Done. That's all he had to say. Nothing special, no frills, no Birshus Maranan v'Rabbanan, no call for Kaddish, nothing. Boom. He didn't tell them what to do. No Hashem, they all did tshuva. So over here, there is the point we're learning, at least at this moment, the power of the tzibur. If the tzibur would get together, look what we can accomplish, what Yechidim are not able to accomplish. But that's not the end of the story, of course. There's more. Meitvei, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down in the Gemara. Another contradiction to what we saw previously, that tshuva mikarat gzar dino shel adam. Einei Hashem elokecha ba. The eyes of Hashem are upon it. What is it? Eretz Yisrael, all the time. Itim latova, itim l'ra'ah. Sometimes for the good, and sometimes for the bad. Yeah? If you look at Rashi, itim latova v'chulei, pa'im sha'itim anitunim l'sof hashana l'tovahi, lahakel aleha min ha'puranut, hanigzar aleha b'rosh Hashanah. Sometimes the times at the end of the year, the sof hashana, here refers to between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, year end. Yeah? Maybe that will be an auspicious time for good or for its opposite. Yeah. This isn't a mystery to us. I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's what the second paragraph of the Shema. I'll just dive in. This is what's in there. So it's not a surprise. So the Gemara says, Ketzad, Harishahayu Yisrael Rishon Gemurin, Rosh Hashanah, Upaskal Lahem Geshamim Mu'atim. The Jewish people, Lo Aleinu, were wicked, totally wicked on Rosh Hashanah. And the decree came for minimal rain. L'sof, but in the end, Chazru Behen, so in the end, they did some kind of tshuva, or not some kind, they did tshuva, and now they're not who they were before. So Lahosif Aleihen Efshar, Shekvar Nigzer Gzeira. It's impossible now for Hashem, as it were. I mean, nothing's impossible, but it says Efshar means that's the rules God made. He's not going to violate his rules. His rule is, I made the Gzeira, I'm not going to go back. Ella, what can Hashem do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu moridan bizmanan ala aretz atzricha lahem. Hakol lefi haaretz. God will cause the rain to fall at precisely the right time, the most auspicious time, even though the volume will be low. The timing and the location where it will fall will be so precise, it'll have the same net effect as to have been, as if there was a lot of it, targeted, unusually targeted. Yeah, that's what the Gemara says. Again, it's a meitvei because we just finished saying, but the tzibur could do tshuva. Now it's saying no. But if they did tshuva, what could Hashem do? It's not going to change the gzera. He'll work it out so within the gzera, things will change in a positive way. Itim l'ra'a, ketzad, hare shahayu yisrael tzadikim gemor Rosh Hashanah, upaslim k'sham merubim, l'sof chazer b'hen. Right? In the end, the Jewish people, God forbid, reneged. L'fachot mehen iafshar. To give less rain, impossible. It's already been decided. Shekvar nigzer gzera. The decree is made. Ela kadosh baruch hu morid on shelo bismanan. Rashi says before the actual planting takes place. Al haaretz she'ena tzricha lahen, where the water supply is doing nothing. Yeah. So right, it's what's the word? It's like it's going to waste. It's falling down in the desert. No one's going to use it in the desert. It's not going to help any of us. So what are you going to do with it? Too late. Too bad. Should have thought of that before. No. Okay. So this, you have an idea here that the quantity of rainfall may be determined, but even after the gzera was rendered, when it will fall and where it will fall still remain totally up for grabs, right? It's like even with, I did a little research into this in preparation for the shiur, but I don't want to go too far off topic. With all of the predictive models that you can come up with mathematically for weather patterns, you still can't predict it. It's not possible. Scientifically. They know prevailing winds. They know what the currents are in various places in the oceans. NASA has mapped not just the ocean surface, but there's an ocean under the ocean. I mean, it's the same ocean, but currents going in different directions. Warmer water at the top, colder water at the bottom, saltier water floating, going down. The whole story. For all of that, still cannot predict when the next typhoon, God forbid, is showing up. They just simply do not know. And we learn here, I mean, this is what Chazal already understood, so to speak, how much water there's going to be, there's a gzera on that. But it doesn't mean it's a done deal. It's like it's not fully closed.
So
yeah.
That's why we confess. So let's say David comes along, and so it's not necessarily hallelujah.
Exactly.
Or the Shem is thinking, the gzera, I know how much it's going to be because I know the future.
Right.
But I'm waiting for them. I need their fasting and Tevit.
To make it so, if you will. Yeah, you could argue it that way. I think it's sensible. I'll just mention what.
Otherwise, why fast?
Right, because according to this Gemara, at least, the gzera is not going to change. The volume is the volume, but
But in order for the gzera to come on Rosh Hashanah, they have to be either tzaddikim gemorim or rishayin gemorim. Anybody else, the gzera doesn't come at.
Yeah. Good. Agreed. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've said it in drushes, but I had actually forgotten that I said it and I know I heard it from my Rabbi Jacob J. Schachter. I was just with him last week. Utshuva utfila utstaka ma'avirin at roa hagzera. Normal translation: you do tshuva, you have tefillah, you give tzedakah, it will take away the evil decree. Says Rabbi Schachter, utshuva utfila utstaka ma'avirin at roa hagzera. If you do tshuva, you tefillah, and you give tzedakah, it could take away that which is evil about the gzera. The gzera still might be there. Maybe you don't have the power to change the gzera. Maybe not. Yeah. But the evil part of it goes by the wayside. Meaning, I got closer to Hashem through tshuva. I made redress for the past. I davened now. I still am appealing even at the last minute. I'm trying to get out of what the gzera is. And tzedakah, I took whatever little strength I had, and I helped somebody else with it. Okay? So maybe it's still not going to be the outcome that I want, but the roa hagzera maybe can be dissipated. It was just last week, one of the Talmidim said, Rabbi, do you remember when you said this? And he said, yeah, of course. So then I reminded myself, I've given that drasha, I forgot. It's a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so you could act surprised Yom Kippur when I say it again, and I forgot that I said it in this shiur, and someone here, you already know who you are, you'll remind me afterwards on Yom Kippur, you already said that in this shiur. It's still true, right? You understand what I'm saying? And that's sort of the idea here, like, the Rebbeinu Shalom made the gzera. He could go against the Gezerah. According to this Gemara, he doesn't want to. Now, by the way, the Gemara at the end here does point out, give us a little bit of a knetch at the end. L'tova mia likar'eh, l'gzar dinaya, but for the good. Why doesn't Hashem just tear it up? To let him add to the rain. Let him add. Okay, what does the Gemara say? This is a beautiful idea, right? L'gzar din, v'lo add. Answers the Gemara, shani hatam de efshar behachi. It's not necessary for Hashem to tear up the decree. If he can, so to speak, reroute the decree, if people did tshuva, that the rain will fall precisely at the time and precisely in the place where it needs to be. It's a beautiful idea, no? Larry, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I don't understand. I always understood to me that he would remove Roa Hagzera. What other, the bad part of
The original way to understand it, which you look at every master, is removes the evil decree. The evil decree itself will be upended, which is the traditional way, the literal way to understand it, no? Rabbi Shach is saying it may be he's going to upend the Gzera itself. It may be the Rebbeinu Shalom decided he's not going to upend the Gzera, but if you engage Tshuva Tefillah Tzedakah, it will mitigate that which is evil in that decree. It will, you understand? It will sweeten it, but it'll palliate it in a certain way, because what actions can you still take, God forbid, if you don't feel you have too many actions left? Answer, Tshuva Tefillah Tzedakah. You can still do that. Okay. To Droshi. Okay. You didn't last too. Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, the Gemara in the end here says, why doesn't Hashem just tear up the decree and add rain? He could, but here there's another way. So he'll do that sooner, which is small amount quantity of rain, but in the right place and at the right time, and that'll be quite something. That'll be, we'll go with that.
Right. So that would be the example. The decree was to have less rain, but the fact that the rain accomplished the goal that was needed.
Yeah.
It wasn't evil to the decree that was existing.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Again, I like what I started with. I don't really like. Hashem could do anything he wants to tear up the decree. I don't know. He wrote the decree. It's not really on paper. It's in Shemayim, so he could tear it up. Huh? Doesn't necessarily evil. Yeah, that's true. Decree is considered bad, but it's not necessarily bad. It had good also. The Gzera here is for the good, right? Shekvar Nigzer Gzera. The decree came out, royal decree. The decree was that it's going to be good. But if people aren't deserving, even at the last minute, can go off the rails and go to the side. Here also, we're talking, it seems, about the people as a group and not individuals per se. The Rabbi Yochanan said it's individuals. If you look on the first line of the wide lines, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Gedol Tshuva Shekarat Gzar Dino Shel Adam. It's one person. But the pasuk he spoke about was about the nation. So the Meitve says, how do you reconcile it? No, that's one is the Tzibur and one is the Yachid. And the Tzibur is one way and the Yachid is another. That's one of the ways to do it. The Rambam in Hilchot Tshuva says that an individual could do Tshuva anytime. Hilchot Tshuva, of course, the culmination of Sefer Hamada. So it's one of the basic elements of knowledge not in the intellectual sense, but in the intimate sense of knowing God. So tshuva, a very important pillar for the Rambam. Right? And Sefer Hamad, the first book of the Yad HaChazaka, in Perek Gimel, he's writing, you could do tshuva anytime. Anytime Hashem is ready to receive tshuva, he holds like Rabbi Yochanan, we could do tshuva. It's not the Yachid versus the Tzibur, but it's easier during the Seret Yemei Tshuva. Hashem is more apt, so to speak, to accept the tshuva, but Ben Kasel Asor between Rosh Hashanah and Kippurim. But it's not that you can do. And the community, anytime they would do tshuva, they're not going to come back empty-handed. Now, much harder to get the whole community to do it. And then, how do you define community? Is it the community of Skokie, Chicago, Illinois, Midwest, United States? The community of one block we don't even have. It's so true. So. Any loyalty. I don't have an answer there either. Huh?
You need minyan anyway.
You need a minion, but what if you have a minion and then you have 2/3 of the rest of the community not in the minion? They're going to carry the community. Any loyalty. I don't understand how it goes. So okay, Chazal are trying to explain to us as best as they can that we'll have some understanding. Tashma, proof.
Also a message. We don't want Hashem to rid the Gezerah.
Anti-pollution. What do we do with the broken Zera? Okay. Yeah, I guess. So here's Tashma. Yor de hayam ba'oniot, osei malacha b'mayim rabim, hema ra'u ma'aseh Hashem v'gomer. All right. All these psukim, by the way, are from the chapter. No, not in Yonah, actually. The chapter 107. We read it on Yom Ha'atzmaut as the beginning of the davening going into Yom Ha'atzmaut because it refers to, it's like the Ma'apilim almost. 4 different groups who are in a time of trial. They're saved by Hashem, and they give thanks to Hashem. Yodul Hashem chazdo v'niflo otav lifnei adam. They thank God for His kindness and speak of His wonders to humanity. And each of those 4 line up perfectly with the Chola, Yam, Yisurim, and Midbar, people of Bench Gomel. So the Gemara here points out that when that pasuk comes up in Perek Kuf Zayin, Yordei Ayam ba'oniot osim lacha b'mayim rabim. Hemaras ra'u maseh Hashem. It doesn't say the rest. It's v'gomer, but on the side in the margin, v'niflo otabim tzula. Next pasuk, vayomer vayamed ruach sarav atramim galav. Right? They see that the sea, the wind, the storm winds were standing up, and the waves were getting higher and higher. Right? So what happens next? Not written in the Gemara, but the pasuk says, next pasuk is Yalu Shemaim Yerid Tehoma. The white waves are going up to Shemaim and down to the depths, right? And so are their souls. Nafsham Bera'ah Yitit Mogag. They're flipping back and forth. Yachogu means they're dancing. V'anu, they're swaying back and forth. Kishikor, like drunkards, right? And why? Because they know what's going to happen. The pasuk continues, V'chol Chachmatam Titbala. All of their wisdom is going to be swallowed up. So what do? Vayitzaku el Hashem batzar lahem. They call out to God in their suffering or in their strait. From their crisis, God saves them. And what do? Right? What happens? The sea calms down. Yakem sarali dmama v'chashu galeim. They quiet down all the waves. V'yismechu ki yishtoku v'enchem v'chos cheftzam. And then yodu Hashem chazdo v'niflotav livnei adam. It's a refrain. It's 4 times in that chapter of Tehillim. So asalim simaniot ke'achin v'rakin shibatorah. L'malacha tzaku. There are simaniot. Means there are signs between the psukim. There are upside down signs. We call them the upside down nuns. Look in Rashi, you'll see the word simaniot. Bein pasuk la pasuk yesh simanin hafuchin kazeh. Now, we don't really have it in our Sefer Tehillim. It's in the Masoretic text written by a sofer of a Sefer Tehillim. You'll find it. And so it's bracketed. Why? It's like ach and rak. The words ach and rak in the Torah are always limiting something. What is being limited here? Lomalacha tzaku kodem gzardin ne'anin. If they cry out before the decree, they'll be answered. If it's after the decree, they won't be answered. These also, however, in their ships are all like individuals. Why are they like individuals? Because they are in it for themselves. They're not in it for the community. They do their own thing. I was wondering, but every ship is its own community. So apparently if all the ships are foundering at exactly the same time, they're all twisting around, so then they become like a community united. But if they're not really united, they're just a bunch of yichidin. It's not gonna work. That's the claim. You need to have the tzibur together. Tashma, another proof. Shala Beluria Hagioret Rabban Gamliel. She asked him the following: the Gioret named Beluria. K'tiv b'toratchem asher li safanim. It says in the Torah specifically, God will not look aside at sins that people do. He's not gonna just pass over what people have done wrong, right? Shali safanim v'likach shochad. Right? It's in Dvarim Perek Yud. Uchtiv, but yet another pasuk, Yisa Shem panav elecha. God will turn His countenance toward you. Sounds like He's going to favor you, maybe even unfairly. So what's going to happen here? So what do you nitpala Rabbi Yossi HaKohen? Rabbi Yossi HaKohen got involved. He came over to her and he said, "Listen, let me give you the backstory on how to understand this section in the Torah. It's true. You have these two statements, but I'll reconcile them. How I reconcile them, I'll tell you as follows. The Adam shino sheba chaviro mana the kavalo zman bifnei hamelach v'nishbala b'chai hamelach. Let's say a person made whatever it is. He wanted to lend, a guy lends another guy, lends a fellow 100 coins, and he tells him you have to pay me back on this date. And he says, I do, I accept, and he's in presence of the king. And he says, I want you to pay me back, and I'm swearing, by the life of the king that I will pay back in time. But it didn't happen. Well, how come? He gives man v'lo pro. He didn't pay. So Ba l'fayes et Amelech. He had to come to console the king, to appease the king. How come? Sworn by the life of the king, he'd get it in time. But he didn't get there. So he dropped the ball. But he said it's on by the life of the king. If I don't bring it, the king should die. So king's, so he comes, I'm terribly sorry. The king said to him, Amarlo, he said to him, El boni macholach. My insult, I don't mind. I forgive you for that. But lech upayes et chaverecha. You have to go appease your fellow. Hachanami, here also. Kan baveret sheben adam lamakom, kan baveret sheben adam lachavero. You can, God will look askance at your, sideways. You sinned, you'll say, I'm sorry, good enough. Yisa shem panav elecha. But asher lo yisafnim v'leikach shochad when it comes to other people. There, nothing God can do. He says, I'm waiting for you to deal with the Ben of the Chavero part. That's only between man and man. Then came Rabbi Akiva, and he dashed a little bit different. Lachava Rabbi Akiva v'li made. And what did he say? And that's germane for our purposes. Kan kodem gzardin, kan la'achar gzardin. Before the decree, God is willing to make the sentence be commuted in some way. But if it's after, you're not able to to rescind it. So the idea here that what about Rabbi Yochanan said that a person could do tshuva? He said so. So again, the Gemara answers hachanami biyachid. This also really is referring to an individual. When Rabbi Akiva said it, he meant an individual, and Rabbi Yochanan must have meant a tzibur. Again, it's a little bit of a question, right? Because he said gzar dino shel adam, didn't say shel tzibur. Rabbi Yochanan, page 17b, right? On 17b, the first of the wide lines, that's what everybody's responding to, saying, well, it's a contradiction, let me prove it, right? And the distinction really seems to be the difference between the community and the individual. Yeah.
Maybe the language, the Hebrew language has changed its meaning because it said Adam would say Adam and we mean
Like humanity or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, the fact that the rest of the Gemara goes on and on between Yachid and Tzibur, Yachid and Tzibur, Yachid and Tzibur. So then he said the word Adam. It sounds like he means a Yachid. So that's what he holds. And the rest of it, though, is saying, no, Yachid versus Tzibur. He knew the words Yachid and Tzibur, Rabbi Yochanan. Why do you say Adam? I don't know. So the Gemara doesn't stop here. The Gemara now goes into the next situation, which is, well, maybe this whole thing with the Yachid is really from the already debated, not by Rabbi Yochanan, all these Amoraim. Maybe it's from the days of the Mishnah. The Mishnah was probably already clearing this back and forth. And he cites here the idea of Rabbi Meir. So the second line, yeah? Ugzardin the Yachid, the issue of the Gzardin of the Yachid, Tanaihi. Really, it's a machloket Tanaim. In other words, to say Rabbi Yochanan has his opinion, and everyone else has their opinion. It's not Yachid versus Rabbim. It's whether the Yachid altogether can get their sentence commuted. Rahai Rabbi Meir Omer, Shnaim Shal Lamita, V'choyan Shave, V'chein Shnaim Shal Legardom, Lidon, V'dinan Shave, Ze Yarad, V'ze Lo Yarad, Ze Nitzal, V'ze Lo Nitzal, Mipnei Ma Ze Yarad, V'ze Lo Yarad, Ze Nitzal, V'ze Lo Nitzal, Zeid Pelav Nana, Zeid Pelav Lo Nana. It's already a challenging story. Rabbi Meir used to point out, two went into their bed to be sick. Two of people went to court where they're figuring out whether they're going to be executed. One person got the right verdict, one person got the wrong verdict, one person got well, and the other person did not get well. So he says one person davened and he was answered, the other person davened and he was not answered. The Gemara says, Mipnei ma zenana v'zel lo nana. Why was one accepted, their tefillah, and the other one was not? So the answer is, Zehit palal tefillah shlema nana, v'zel lo yipalal tefillah shlema lo nana. The one who davens a complete tefillah, meaning a complete tefillah in what sense? With all their heart. They didn't rattle off the words, they had perfect kavanah, that's the one that's going to be answered. The one that didn't have perfect kavanah, they're not going to be answered. Again, each of these things bring up its own challenges, right? Does that mean if someone davened with full kavana and they died, we should say at their funeral, they probably just didn't daven with enough kavana?
We'll go over it.
Like I said, I can't. It's hard for me to understand it. It's hard for me to understand it. That's Rabbi Meir's claim. In other words, Rabbi Meir holds that whether you survive, you don't survive in the so-called Gzar Din, depends on how you daven. Rabbi Lazar disagrees. Rabbi Lazar Amar kan kodem Gzar Din, kan la'achar Gzar Din. What does that mean? Before the decree. That's why that person davened and it worked. After the decree. What? Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, did he daven before the decree? He davened after the decree. Which is it?
You don't get anywhere different from your question.
No.
It's just,
It's a different statement, but the kodem and la'achar Gzar Din was the point.
I understand, but it doesn't.
Doesn't bring me closer to understanding it either. Right. So
Actually, to me, it brings up more questions about that period between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, meaning it would have worked in during that period,
right.
which is even more troubling.
Right.
So,
We're left with a lot of questions. We probably go with Rabbi Yitzchak. Probably. Rabbi Yitzchak's the next line. Say Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Lazar, now Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, Yafet Se'akar La'adam, Bein Kodem Gzar Din, Bein La'achar Gzar Din. Yeah? It's good for a person to cry out to Hashem before the decree, after the decree. Why? Presumably because the Kodesh Baruch Hu can commute the sentence even after it could work either way. Yafet Se'akar, before or after. How does he answer Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Lazar? He doesn't. He just says you could daven any time. I don't know what the mechanism is, but you could daven any time and it could work. Then the Gemara says, "Kodem." It's okay. Gzar din the tzibor mi mikra. Is the Gzar din of the tzibor going to get torn up? Is that necessarily true? We have a pasuk from Sefer Yirmiyahu. Kabsi meira'a libeich uchtiv kim techabsi benetiv etarbi borit nechtam avonech lifanai. So even one statement says you should launder your wickedness, right? Meaning you launder your not launder your wicked money. So launder your wickedness means do tshuva, and it'll work. Another statement says you can do all the tshuva you want. The stain is still going to be there. It's not going to go away. I'm gonna see it all the time. A ketem is a stain, not nachtam like chatum, but nachtam like ketem. The stain will be there. You will never get rid of it. So which is it? My love, kodem Gzar Din, kan la'achar Gzar Din. Yeah. Maybe one is before the Gzar Din, one is after the Gzar Din, and therefore it would obtain for the tzibor, just like we just finished saying for the Yachid, according to many. Lo, the Gemara says no. Idi ve'idi la'achar Gzar Din, v'lo kasha. They're both after the decree, but it's not really a question. Why is it a question? Kan b'Gzar Din sheyesh imo shvua, kan b'Gzar Din she'ein imo shvua. There's a Gzar Din that has an oath that was taken. God took an oath, can't rescind it, versus a time that he made a decree and he didn't take an oath with it. Ki the Rav Shmuel bar Ami, the Amar Rav Shmuel bar Ami, the Omri Law, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Amar Rav Yonatan, Minayin l'Gzar Din she'eshim shvua she'en nikra she'nemar. If there would be an oath, how do you know that it wouldn't be taken apart, right? So you have this from Sefer Shmuel Aleph, where we have V'lachein ishbati lebeit Eli im yitkaper avon beit Eli b'zevach uvemincha. God, as it were, vows that the house of Eli will not be able to do tshuva for everything that's happened, for the sin of the house of Eli, no matter how many korbanot they give. Amar Rav b'zevach uvemincha and yitkaper. Yitkaper b'Torah. So Rav says, yeah, well, maybe the tshuva is not going to work through offerings, but maybe they could learn Torah. That's another way through. Abai Amar b'zevach uvemincha and yitkaper of yitkaper b'Torah v'gmilul chasadim. Throwing more offerings on the pile is not going to work, but what will work if they do Torah and they have Gimel Chasadim, that will be enough to push it through. Now, this doesn't preclude doing tshuva. Actually, the point is, if there was a Gzar Din and there was a shvua, how could you upend it? Oh, it would take a lot of extra work, right? So, in addition to just doing tshuva, you also have to add Torah. According to Rava, according to Abaye, I have to add debate. By the way, it's Rabba or Rava. It's another discussion. And you have to do tshuva here. It means you have to do Torah and Gemilut Chasadim as such. I'll pause just to mention here that there's a medrash that describes that when the decree of Haman was issued, so the reason why Mordechai tears his clothing is just he heard what happened involving Haman, but that through Ruach HaKodesh he hears that the Gzar Din was accepted on high. So there are various midrashim, one of which describes, again, it's imagery, so you'll take it as it comes, where they're asking someone to go check, was the decree written in ink or in blood? How was it sealed? Because if it was written in ink, it can be rescinded. If it's already stamped in blood, it can't be rescinded. Now, what does that mean? It's this idea here, I think, about the shvua. There was a gzar din against the Jews. We found out about it. The human manifestation of it was lo aleinu, Amalek, in the persona of the Agagi Haman, Yamach Shemo v'zichro. We knew about it, but there had to be a tshuva process in order to undo it, not just the tshuva process alone, but also if you read through the Midrashim, they have children sitting and learning and all different things, right? And fasting and doing different things. That's in the Megillah. And then there still has to be the lobbying effort they have to do. It's part of it. I didn't show them the email I sent you earlier today. So that's all part of it. But when you think about this, this concept, again, we're kind of like, well, how could you get out of it? The decree was made. You can't keep adding korban. It's too late for that. Learn. Yep. You're laughing about it. You're like,
No, because
I don't know.
We don't have any idea what the Gazar din is, so we have no idea if it was rescinded or not rescinded, right?
I don't know.
We have no idea of anything, so all we can do
Yeah.
is try to be better. I mean, we
Yeah.
have no control, we don't have any.
You know,
information about whether our prayers are being answered, whether our Gazar din is being
yeah.
in ink or blood or in.
Yeah.
Sharpie.
Look at this last week's Haftarah. There was absolutely nothing the Shaul could have done.
It was too late.
At that point.
It was too late. Yeah, that was too late. Yeah. So here you have the ending for tonight. Because I got to go also. Rabba v'Abaye midabeit Eli ka'atu. Rab and Abaye came from the house of Eli. They were descended of the house of Eli, which is quite astounding. Rabba, by the way, is the adopted father of Abaye, and he's also his uncle. So Rabba da Asik b'Torah Chaya Arbain Shanin. He learned a lot. He lived 40 years. Abaye da Asik b'Torah Chasadim Chaya Shitin Shanin. He was zocha to live 60 years. I have trouble understanding this on the level of shot for various reasons, and among them, before the guy was 40 and 60, these people made such a contribution to Klal Yisrael that for all time, you can't learn Gemara without Rabba Abaye. I mean, and he only lived to 40? 40? Unbelievable. Ending point. There was a certain family, they would die. Everyone would die in the family when they were 18 years old. They told Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai about this. Amar lahem, Shemi mishpachat Eliata. Maybe you're from the family of Eli, and that's what's happening to you. Dichtiv bei v'chol marbit beitcha yamutu anashim. Anashim, you all die, all the people, right? As you increase people. So he told them, Lichu isku b'Torah, v'chiu halchu v'asku b'Torah v'chayu. They went to learn Torah. They got involved in Torah. They lived. They started to call them, these people, the family of Rabbi Yochanan, because they were named after him since he gave them life. How's that for an ending? We're gonna stop here. God willing, we'll learn next week, Monday night. We'll continue. I'm sorry for the technical problems. We had at the beginning of the shiur. Part of the shiur was recorded, part of it is not. So you got what you got. We'll continue next week. Next week, the shiur will be obviously at a later time, a little bit later. I have to tell you what that is later.
Probably 7:30.
Something like that. But there's a problem because I have a bad feeling the boys' bar mitzvah group, the last one is next week, I think, on Monday night. So I'll let you know. A bridge shiur is still better than no shiur. So, but I can't move them around too much because they get confusing. Okay. Adkan.